I get sick a lot, and lately, since I'm getting older, I get a lot of, I have constant pain in my toes.
I have an unquenchable thirst, and I'm drinking gallons of ginger ale and Coke just to quench my thirst, and it's getting worse.
I've been hospitalized about 3 times because my sugars were above 500.
I just feel glad that I feel the pain, because when the pain stops, that's worse. Then you're in real trouble. I mean, I don't mind the pain if I don't have to become an amputee, frankly.
Diabetes is going to conquer if you let it. It is going to destroy you in more ways than you can think. The depression, the blindness, the loss of your job because you're missing too much work so you lose your job, the amputations, the dialysis, sitting there with a needle in my arm for 5 to 6 hours a day, 3 days a week. So who won? Diabetes.
It's an epidemic, and I think it is true to say, though somebody was waffling on this the other day, this is the pandemic of the 21st century. We've got it already. You never mind AIDS. AIDS never touched as many people as this is touching.
Welcome to Cameron County, Texas, possibly the sickest region in the United States. Here, in the tip of Texas, almost 1 in 3 people have diabetes. A solid majority of the population is overweight or obese, and more than half have no medical insurance. Cameron County is a window into our nation's future. By the year 2050, 1/3 of the U.S. will have diabetes, just like Cameron County does today. Dr. Joseph McCormick and his research team have measured the rate of diabetes in Cameron County. His team has collected real data on the growing diabetes and obesity epidemic along the South Texas border by studying a research cohort of 2,500 Hispanic adults.
So we started in 2003, and since that time we've enrolled about 2,500 people in the cohort. Now that's plenty of people to do what we initially set out to do, and that is measure how big is the burden of disease.
You know, the Framingham cohort, big longitudinal cohort, but of course they're all Caucasian, much better off. We wanted one that was Hispanic, specifically Mexican American, so that we could use this to find out what the major problems were. We started that 8 years ago, and we're just getting to the point where we're seeing what the answers are here, and we have some pretty alarming data.
We measured the actual rate of diabetes in the population. Typically, when CDC makes these large measurements in the country, it's by telephone. And so they ask people, do you have diabetes? Well, this is a very poor population, so we knew that we had to go out and actually measure, because a lot of people don't have access to medical care, so they have diabetes, they don't even know it. And indeed, what we found was about 20% of those that we found diabetes in did not know they had diabetes. And overall, we are finding about 25 to 27% of the people above the age of 18 with diabetes. Now let me hasten to say that that's using the newest definition of diabetes, which came out in January of 2010.
Last year, the American Diabetes Association decided to expand the definition of diabetes to include what's known as glycosylated hemoglobin. This is a very good measure of the fact that you're not handling glucose properly. And when we look at that, it pushes our diabetes rates up by that definition to 29.7% over the age of 18. So 1/3 of this population has diabetes. Obesity was about 50% of the population are actually obese, and another 24% are overweight. So, you know, if you go around the town, you'll be able to see our data and you'll realize there aren't many normal-sized people around anymore.
So overall, over 80% of the population here is abnormally overweight or obese, which means that only about 15 or 16% of the population thereabouts is normal weight.
We see more case of diabetes. We see actually a very bad case of diabetes. I think it has gotten worse compared to what we used to see before. And we're seeing a lot more complications. Maybe we're seeing them more frequently than we used to see them. And we have also improved in the way we take care of diabetes, which has helped. But there's no doubt that we still have a lot of cases of diabetes.
Who do I know that has diabetes? I think the question is, who do I know that doesn't have diabetes? Almost everybody I know, starting with family, friends, neighbors, everyone I know. There's very, very few people that I know that don't have diabetes.
Diabetes rarely kills somebody directly, particularly type 2 diabetes. It usually rather causes other problems, heart disease, kidney disease, it results in infections. And so all of these things are usually the killers.
Everyone has heard of diabetes, but few understand how this disease infiltrates all the body's major systems. The key is insulin. This hormone, produced in the pancreas, is responsible for controlling blood sugar. When insulin levels are low, or its quality is poor, or when the pancreas has stopped producing it altogether, unchecked blood sugar levels wreak havoc on the brain, the eyes, the kidneys, the vascular system, the heart, the liver, just about every organ and function in the human body. There are two forms of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. Those living with type 1 diabetes depend on insulin injections to survive. For some unknown reason, their body attacked the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. Type 1 diabetes used to be called juvenile diabetes because an autoimmune event triggering this disease often occurred during early childhood. The cause of type 1 diabetes is unknown.
Tell her why do you have this other one?
In case my blood sugar drops low and I know when it goes low, below 80 and below 55 it vibrates, and when it's like 200, like 20 it vibrates.
Type 2 diabetes, also known as insulin-resistant diabetes, occurs when the body does not respond to insulin. Sugar builds in the blood, causing the pancreas to work harder to produce more insulin. The pancreas simply can't keep up, and the excess sugar begins to destroy organs. Being overweight is a risk factor for developing type 2 diabetes because fat interferes with the body's ability to use insulin. Genetics and inactivity also play a significant role. Type 2 diabetes accounts for at least 95% of all cases. Type 2 diabetes is the ticking time bomb.
People with diabetes, particularly if they're not treated appropriately, develop a series of complications that really affect most of the organs in the body. So the commonest cause of blindness in the United States now is related to diabetes. the commonest cause of kidney failure. We know that over half of people entering dialysis units have diabetes as the cause of the kidney failure. And then the small nerves in the feet in particularly lose their sensation, diabetic neuropathy. And when this happens, people may step on a nail, or strange objects can lead to a wound that doesn't heal and leads to amputation. All of these, what we call the microvascular complications, eye, kidney, and nerve damage, are related to how well we do at controlling your blood sugar level. And in the old days, we really didn't have good medicines to control the blood sugar level. However, today now we have many, many classes that can be used in combination. So if we really pick people up with diabetes early enough and we treat them, we should be able to prevent the microvascular complications. Now, in addition to the eye, the kidney, and the nerve damage, people with diabetes also get disease in the large vessels. So the blood vessels in the heart, very common for them to have heart attacks. The blood vessels that go to the brain, is very common for them to have strokes.
Diabetes affects both the small blood vessels and the large blood vessels in the eye and elsewhere in the body. And as it affects the small blood vessels in the eye, it causes damage to the retina in the back of the eye primarily. Patient will wake up one morning and not be able to see clearly out of the eye. They'll come in as a walk-in or emergency, not realizing that their diabetes has been affecting their eye. In some cases for years, they haven't been referred or didn't get an eye exam, and they present with this very dense hemorrhage inside the eye that obscures our view and obscures their ability to see. So from the earliest stages of a few dot hemorrhages to exudate or leaking blood vessels, to new blood vessels forming on the optic nerve or in the retina, to the more advanced stages where the hemorrhage occurs as a result of these new blood vessels. And at the very end stage of the disease, when patients come in with very advanced disease, they actually develop scarring in the eye. These new blood vessels and bleeding cause traction and pull on the retina, and it actually causes detachment of the retina from the back of the eye. And at the very end, it forms a funnel-shaped detachment, which in some cases is irreparable, and they have permanent loss of vision.
We need to really save the beta cells, the cells that produce insulin, and metformin doesn't save those beta cells. And the second most commonly used drug, again a generic one, and I think that's a large part of why it's used so commonly, the sulfonylurea drugs. This class of drugs doesn't save your beta cells either. And what people don't realize is that if you can't save your beta cells, which are the cells that produce insulin, then you have to go on to insulin. And insulin is really very difficult for our patients. It's multiple injections, and it's pricking their glucose 3 or 4 times a day to check their glucose. And it's also very expensive because the strips are very expensive.
Since we know what the answer is, we don't have to develop some magic drug. It's not like cancer where the investment should be in the prevention and in the lifestyle change. We know what it takes to prevent and control diabetes, but we're not doing it.
Well, right now we spend about 90 out of every dollar for health care, about 95 to 96 cents of it is spent on treatment, and about 4 to 5 cents spent on prevention. If you did that for your house and your business and your car, you'd go out of business. Your car would fall apart. And so why we do that for health, I couldn't tell you.
We're running towards the edge of the cliff. We don't really have any way to stop you from running, but once you all fall over the cliff, we've got a great medical system to take care of you. So what we need to do is kind of step back and say, whoa, 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 why don't we actually turn our society away from the cliff? Doctors are not taught nutrition. What they've become, and this is bad to say, are pharmaceutical drug pushers. They have certain symptoms, say, I'm tired, I'm listless, I don't have energy. Well, you're depressed. Take some Prozac. Well, they don't have a Prozac deficiency, but chances are they're not eating the kinds of foods that their brain needs to release the type of hormones that make us happy.
Most physicians are not trained, and they don't practice any prevention at all. Very few do. Or they might just say, you should eat less, or you need to lose some weight, but that's not adequate. So we absolutely have to have serious prevention programs.
You spend $50,000 on a dialysis patient, but if you could just spend that in prevention. We all know that prevention is key, but who's willing to tackle switching the curative model to the preventive model? Who's going to take that on?
We had a client that
I sent him to the hospital for acidosis. And he came back, and the doctor put him from oral medicine onto insulin. He came back to me on Monday, and he said, "Sister, I've got this syringe, and I got this bottle, and I don't know what to do." So he was never instructed how to give his insulin. He was never instructed to put the insulin in the refrigerator, the bottle.
Trouble with prevention is you never get a grateful patient. If you're sitting in a clinic and somebody comes in sick and you give them a pill and you cure them, they're so pleased they bring you a bottle of scotch. Well, if you stop them getting sick, no one ever brings you a bottle of scotch. They don't know what it is you did.
When I first came to Brownsville 32 years ago, we were seeing an occasional child with diabetes, what was called juvenile diabetes, type 1 diabetes, which is the juvenile. And as time went by, we rarely saw the juvenile type 1 diabetes, and we started seeing kids who were overweight, and gradually started seeing more and more children with type 2 diabetes because of their obesity and probably family history. I'll even go as far as when I was in training, when we would see a kid that would come in with type 2 type of diabetes related to obesity, it was almost a rarity. And we would, all the residents would get together and discuss the case because it wasn't that common. And now it's the other way around. The juvenile type of diabetes, type 1, has become, well, it's probably the same proportion as before, same rate. But the other one is just overwhelming.
Even though they see the complications right there in front of them, they still don't take it seriously. They don't wake up and say, this is going to happen to my child. My husband might have gotten this disease in his 30s. My child is 8 years old with this disease. If my husband has already had a foot amputated, what is going to happen to my child? What kind of life is this child going to have? Are they going to be on dialysis by the age of 20?
What is interesting is that kids come in with a little rash, and they're maybe 100 pounds overweight, and the parents are not worried about the weight. They're worried about the little rash will never cause any significant problem, while the diabetes is going to kill them, it's going to cut their life short. And you tell them that he needs to lose weight, and they laugh, like a joke.
You have like 3 siblings, and 2 of them are obese, and there's one that's thin, but thin that's normal. And they'll look at that thin child and say, like, boy, you're skinny. Like, there's something wrong with her. And they'll ask me at the skinny child, can you recommend a vitamin or something? Because I don't think she's eating well, But it's not because they don't see that that's healthy. They're seeing that the bigger children are healthy.
Food is of great value, and it's almost the basis of a relationship, because wherever you go, you have a meeting, they have food. If we go into the homes and give education, they have food. That is kind of the central focus.
The diet here is not suitable for diabetics. I mean, most of what you eat, if you just go into a restaurant and order a normal lunch or a normal dinner, you're going to be eating tortillas, you're going to be eating rice, you're going to be eating beans, you're going to be eating things with lots of sugar in them and lots of carbohydrates, and those are the things that are just not good for you.
And some of them are very stunned when they come into the nutrition class, because we actually have vials that show how much sugar is in one glass of Coke or things like that, and they're just amazed. They don't know that. So education is vital, but action is more vital.
Especially in poor populations where now people tend to, because they don't have very much money, they can go out and buy very high caloric foods for very small amounts of money, fast foods. And this just simply adds to the burden of obesity and diabetes.
It's time to saddle up. Do we mean it or do we not mean it? Now, I'd say, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Tea Party, whatever. So our current administration, and led by the First Lady, has got an initiative out there. She went and partnered with Walmart
and they're going to go into inner cities, especially, and start addressing this food desert. So there's a variety and availability of fresh foods in inner cities where we really, really, truly need it. That's great, terrific. Maybe this is a new third rail of politics. Maybe it's not really Social Security and Medicare, it's health and it's nutrition, and say, we have to stop the madness. We are getting sicker and sicker and older, and it's heartbreaking. And now, all of a sudden, if you don't take care of yourself, you're impacting me.
So we have a lot of things that have changed in our society. There is a lot less physical activity. We have more access to fast food because it makes money. And so there are fast food restaurants everywhere, and people have found them to be convenient.
There are many neighborhoods, for example, that don't have sidewalks. There are many neighborhoods that are adjacent to shopping centers that don't have sidewalks to the shopping center, so that if you even wanted to walk to the mall or to Sears or to your grocery store or whatever, you wouldn't be able to. You'd have to walk on the street, and there are many neighborhoods whose children can't ride a bike to school because there really is no safe route.
You have to drive everywhere because the city is completely not designed for bikes or walking. It's hard to make those kind of changes. It's hard enough to do it when you're in a perfect environment, to make those kind of personal changes if you're used to them all of your life. If you're working 2 jobs, for your family, working 2 shifts to try to fit in exercise, I mean, it's tough. Our system is not set up to make it easy for people.
But there's an interesting piece of this. When I first came down here and started going to meetings to talk about what are the biggest health problems, diabetes was not on the mind nor obesity. And why do you think that is? It's because it became the norm.
Something that I see in our South Texas society is just general apathy among people. Everybody in South Texas has a family member or a relative who either has diabetes or has problems with obesity. And I know that's a very general statement that I'm making, but I think almost anybody can think of somebody important in their lives, be it a family member or a friend, that suffers from these issues. And I think that so much of the South Texas society has sort of become apathetic because they sort of accept that this is a way of life, particularly when you have it running in families. When you have families where everybody is obese, or you have families where everybody has diabetes, they sort of just accept this as a way of life, and that's just part of the hand they've been dealt, I guess, and nobody seems to be interested in trying to change their own fate.
It's coming so widespread that millions of people have it, and it's sad to say that some people might start thinking of it as being normal almost, but it's not supposed to be like that.
Almost everywhere you turn, somebody's saying, "Oh, I have diabetes," like it's something common. It's something that's expected to be. People just live casually with diabetes, and it's just something they expect of themselves and of their relatives and family members.
I think, at least in my case, you go through a period of denial because the immediate impact of that affliction is not immediately felt.
That's a pretty serious thing when you think about losing your eyesight, losing your limbs, or dying. Those are your choices if you're not careful. So I think people just have to take it a lot more seriously. And the reason they don't is because they don't feel sick, I think.
Both obesity and diabetes together, the cost based on the rates we have is over $1 billion a year for the lower Rio Grande Valley. Now imagine if you could reduce that even by 10%, what that would do to healthcare costs. So when you're looking down the road, and that's with a rate of around 20 or so percent. So imagine it's now 2 to 2.5 times that rate. Imagine what the cost is going to be, just the economic cost, never mind the social cost. We already have almost, as I've already illustrated, almost the entire population, except for maybe 15% of it, is already overweight or obese. That trend continues. We're going to see the rates of diabetes in this area that will probably be more like 50%. And that is economically unsustainable.
Diabetes is a worldwide epidemic. And I think the only continent that's really not been affected by this now is Africa, and that's because they're so poor that their lifestyle has not been westernized.
There's the hope that if you're diagnosed and you eat well, you monitor your glucose, you exercise, and you do all the things that really are required of you, you'll have good outcomes.
Well, I was taking medication not only for diabetes but also for hypertension, and I was also taking medication for my eyes, drops actually, and antibiotics for chronic eye infections that I was continuously having as well from the same problems. And that was a lot of medications I was taking daily. And at the same time, I thought, this is enough. This could very well be affecting other organs in my body, my liver, from taking so many medications as well. So that's when I decided to just make that change and live a healthier lifestyle, be a little more active, and like I said, gradually take control over my life back and regain my quality of life. And at this time, I don't take any other medications at all. I don't take medications for cholesterol either. I don't take medication for high blood pressure. I don't take any medications for my diabetes.
You need to take ownership of diabetes. You cannot let your doctor take ownership. You can't let anybody else. You yourself have to say, this is my disease. This is something that I can prevent every single complication. I can. Not my doctor, not my family, not anybody else. I can. And once you take ownership of it and you know that I can do this, I can conquer this disease with two simple things. Simple. Change of diet and exercise.
I have had some broken blood vessels in my eyes, which since my A1C and my sugar's gone down are gone, which is wonderful.
It makes it vital that I stay on top of my blood glucose and do whatever's necessary to avoid the diabetes.
Being hungry and wanting the sweets and wanting everything that you crave for, it's all in your mind. So you kind of have to psych yourself out and tell yourself, I need to make these changes, I want to make these changes, and make the change.